Welcome back to G Fun Facts Online, your go-to spot for the most amazing truths our world has to offer. Today, we're venturing into a world that sounds like pure fantasy. Picture this, the high Arctic, not as a desolate icy wasteland, but as a bustling nursery for ancient birds. And get this, all while colossal dinosaurs roamed those same frosty landscapes. This isn't science fiction, folks. This is a stunning reality recently unearthed by paleontologists, and it's rewriting a huge chunk of what we knew about life at Earth's poles. 73 million years ago, deep in the Late Cretaceous period, long before any human even dreamed of polar exploration, the Arctic was already a chosen breeding ground for a surprisingly diverse range of bird species. We're talking about pushing back the known history of birds nesting at the poles by a mind-boggling 25 to 30 million years. Now, for a long time, the early days of polar bird nesting were a real mystery. The fossil record was pretty sparse. Before these new discoveries, our earliest solid proof of birds raising their young near the poles was from about 47 million years ago. That's well after the asteroid hit that famously wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs and about 75% of all animal life on Earth. But new research, focusing on a place called the Prince Creek Formation in northern Alaska, has completely flipped the script. This Alaskan site, which was even further north back in the Cretaceous, we're talking a paleolatitude of 80 to 85 degrees, has given up an incredible treasure, a collection of tiny fossilized bird bones and teeth. And these weren't just any old bones. Among them were the super delicate remains of embryos and hatchlings, what scientists call perinatal fossils. This is the oldest direct proof we have of birds nesting and raising their young in a polar environment. Finding Cretaceous bird bones is rare enough, but baby bird bones? That's almost unheard of, because they're so porous and fragile. Lauren Wilson, a doctoral student at Princeton University and lead author of a key study on these findings, put it perfectly. She said, "Birds have existed for 150 million years. For half of the time they have existed, they have been nesting in the Arctic. Let that sink in. For at least 73 million years, the Arctic has been a vital nursery for bird life. So who were these feathered pioneers of the Cretaceous Arctic? The fossils from Prince Creek reveal a surprisingly diverse avian community, all living alongside dinosaurs. Researchers have identified several types. There were diving birds, kind of like modern loons. These are called hesperorniths. Then there were gull-like birds, known as ichthyorniths. And, fascinatingly, several kinds of birds similar to modern ducks and geese. Some of these might even be early members of neorniths, which is the group that includes every living bird species today. Some of these ancient birds even had toothless jaws, a hallmark of modern birds. These discoveries are so compelling because they show that the ancestors of modern birds, the ornithurans, had already developed some pretty sophisticated adaptations to survive and reproduce in these super challenging high-latitude environments. And they did it long before that massive extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous. Now, life in the late Cretaceous Arctic wasn't exactly a picnic, even if it was warmer overall than today. Imagine months of continuous winter darkness, freezing temperatures, and snowfall. For tiny, freshly hatched birds, or even young fledglings about to face their first migration, those conditions would have been incredibly tough. The fact that we're finding nesting sites there means these ancient birds must have evolved some brilliant strategies to cope. This could have included seasonal migration, flying vast distances to escape the worst of winter, just like many modern Arctic nesting birds do. Or perhaps they developed ways to overwinter, like having specialized feathers for super insulation, or adjusted metabolisms to handle the cold and dark. And they definitely would have needed precise timing for reproduction, making sure their chicks hatched during the brief Arctic summer when food was abundant and there was continuous daylight. It seems these ornithuran birds, the ancestors of modern birds, had a knack for thriving in such an environment, and this might have given them a crucial edge. Interestingly, fossils of another major bird group from the Cretaceous, the enantiornithines, are missing from these high-latitude Alaskan sites. Enantiornithines generally developed more slowly, which might have made it harder for them to succeed in the short Arctic breeding season. This suggests that our birds' ancestors were perhaps better equipped for the tough Arctic life, and that might have helped them survive the mass extinction that wiped out the enantiornithines and the non-avian dinosaurs. So what's the big deal about these Alaskan discoveries? Well, they have huge implications. First, they show that complex behaviors like polar nesting and probably migration evolved much, much earlier in bird history than we ever thought. Second, it means birds have been key players in polar ecosystems for tens of millions of years, acting as ecosystem engineers, influencing nutrient cycles and how other organisms spread. The Arctic, it turns out, has long been a nursery for modern birds. Third, those adaptations these polar nesting birds developed might have been critical for their lineage surviving the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, allowing them to diversify into the incredible array of bird species we see all around us today. And finally, this research has put Alaska on the map as one of the best places in the world to find bird fossils from the age of dinosaurs, an area that wasn't really on the radar for these kinds of finds before. As Dr. Pat Druckenmiller, director of the University of Alaska Museum of the North, said, this pushes back the record of birds breeding in the polar regions by 25 to 30 million years. That's a massive leap. Of course, the science never stops. While these discoveries are monumental, they also open up exciting new questions. Scientists are eager to find more complete skeletons, to figure out exactly where these ancient Arctic nesters fit into the avian family tree. They especially want to confirm if some are indeed the oldest known members of Neornites, the group of all modern birds, and further investigation into the specific adaptations that allowed these birds to thrive in such extreme conditions will continue to shed light on the remarkable resilience and evolutionary journey of birds. So the discovery of these 73-million-year-old nesting sites paints an incredible picture, an ancient Arctic teeming with life, where the ancestors of modern birds carved out a niche for themselves at the very extremes of our planet. It's a testament to their amazing ability to adapt and flourish, showing that the ecological strategies we see in polar birds today have incredibly deep evolutionary roots, stretching all the way back to the twilight of the dinosaur age. That's all for this episode of G Fun Facts Online. Thanks for tuning in. Join us next time for more fascinating facts that make our universe so incredible. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you learned something amazing today.